All right, welcome back to K24. My name is Shiko Kaitani. Thank you so much for sticking with us. There's so much happening today, including the BBI signature launch. Please keep in mind that we are going to be bringing you live pictures from KICC as we wait for His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta to officiate the launch, as well as Honorable Raila Odinga. So we are, as you can see, of course, waiting for this particular launch to begin. You can see preparations are currently underway at KICC as they begin to prepare for the BBI signature launch. Nevertheless, we continue with our discussion, which is all about birthing through adoption. Still in studio with me is Pauline Kingaga, Shanice Kimenyi, as well as Grace Ikambi, answering some of your questions you may be having about adoption. And remember, our question of the day still stands. We are asking you what you think as far as integration process is concerned for adopted children. What challenges may they be having getting into a new home? Well, one person says in the case of adoption, the costs involved are quite high, or they're asking what are the costs involved if you do want to adopt a child. Okay, that's one. All right, this is Chris Shiko Kaitani. I'm listening to the conversation. Say hi to the social worker in studio. I'm also a social worker. Thank you so much. Okay, another text message. In the case of adoption, I recommend those who are unable to give birth should do it. Put those with children not in or to avoid conflict of interest. By the way, your children and the adopted one. Okay? All right, thank you so much. Keep talking to us. And so a very interesting question here, which I had planned to bring up, which is about the cost of the adoption process. Perhaps if you think about it, Grace, this is why some people may be shying away from adopting a child, because it honestly does sound like a very expensive venture. Yeah.
The costs for adoption, there are two costs in adoption. There's the cost that you pay to the adoption society, the agency to facilitate the process, and there's the legal fee. Yeah. The adoption agency is paid a regulated fee by the fee is regulated by the government, so it's 12,500 shillings.
Yeah.
The legal fee varies. It ranges, Shanice can confirm this, it ranges from maybe 50,000 to 150,000. This depends on the law firm that you decide to choose to pursue the legal process with.
Right.
Yeah.
Shanice, is it that much? Is that how much family lawyers perhaps would be charging for their legal fees? Right around there?
Yes, that could be the ballpark figure, depending on the law, the circumstances of the case. Because there are times when things happen in the middle of a case. You know, the court can say, go back, look for the biological mother, do a DNA, go look for the biological father, do ABCD. So costs are affected by all these things. And also, depending on a law firm, you actually process the entire thing up to the birth certificate. Because from a judgment given by His Lordship, Justice Lanawala, he allowed adopted children to get birth certificates that look like ours, you know, look like basically, everybody else.
Yes.
So we, most firms will process up to that, and every stage costs money. Yes.
You know, what we typically see are traditional support systems, so to speak. And there are people who were taken in by relatives, taken in by family friends, and there really was no structure around it.
Yes.
What would you say about such a situation? Could I be doing something illegal, having taken my distant cousin's child in? But I mean, it's how a lot of us grew up. There was no such thing as, oh, mwende kotini, mwandike makaratasi ati uchukue mtoto. You just take a child and you take care of them as they're your own.
Yeah, you're actually very right. In one way or another, human beings have adopted from the very beginning.
Right.
Whether you want to look at it from Moses' age to Jesus being adopted by Mary and Joseph, there's always been some form of adoption, whether you go to court or not. And most of us have lived with a relative or have lived with our uncles and aunties, and they have provided for us. What happens with kinship. You know, kinship, this is blood.
Yeah.
And as much as we hate to say it, blood sometimes can be thicker than water. And so there's that, even when something happens to you, this child will still go to another family member. So there's that continuity.
Yeah.
There's that, you know, people care about what happens to you. But now with the child who's been abandoned, you know, this is a child who is a stranger.
Right.
That is why they need to be protected even more.
Okay, so it's for the child's own good.
It is
that
for the
you
child,
get things done formally.
Yes.
Okay.
Give them a name formally.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're watching this and you could relate to this particular situation, tell us how it's been for you. If you lived with an auntie, with an uncle, how does that affect you going forward now that there is nothing structured around this particular relationship? I'm going to get to you in just a minute, Pauline, but I can see Joshua George from Mombasa saying, I think it is the responsibility of the adoptee to create the lovely environment for the adopted to enjoy. All right, thank you so much for that. Do we have another text message here that's coming from Gilbert Rotich, okay? From Kamirani, naming of adopting children is a problem because I may start again naming other names which have not been used or the child is not used to. Okay. All right. At what age should the adopted child be told that he is adopted? And in most cases, what happens after the revelation? I mean, how do most children react? And this brings in that question about the talk. But first, there's one that says, kindly ask the social worker on what is the least age of the child that one can adopt. What's the youngest that you can pretty much adopt? Okay, so as you think about that, Grace, Pauline, the talk, you know, like in relationships when, you know, the lady wants to have the talk with the guy.
Yes.
There's a parent right now who probably has adopted a child and is wondering, okay, how do I begin this conversation?
Yeah.
How do I tell you that you're adopted?
I'm, like I said earlier, I'm a believer in as early as possible, because what happens when you do it early, you avoid giving different informations, you know. So if I don't say from the word go that, you know, you are not in my stomach, but you are in one of the things that you can even do practically is take the baby to the home where you adopted them from, maybe on a weekend, pass by there. This is where you used to sleep. Yeah. You know, we think children don't hear. But even when they're 1 year, 2 years, they'll start. And I'm saying that practically. This is what we did ourselves. So we would go to New Life. This is where you used to sleep. And then we chose you. And then you came home. We had a biological daughter. So your sister was in my stomach. And there's a photo that she's in my stomach. You are not in my stomach, but we chose you. We bore you in our hearts first. And then so we kept telling her that. We kept, not that it's an everyday conversation in the house, but bits and pieces. So what that helps, it helps to keep building. But now when I say that I gave birth to you, or she knows that is how children are, they're in mommy's stomach. So it will be hard now to change that. You know, when you lie, and I know we don't say it like we want to lie to them. It's just that it's difficult. So you keep telling them. So our daughter is now 7, and she says her journey very well. She will tell you, like, I was in this place, my mom abandoned me, I was very tiny, I was 1 kilo, I was taken to hospital, I grew up a little, in fact, I had adding that the other day, I grew up a little bit more, then I was taken to New Life, and then my parents, my new parents, she actually says that, my new parents came to me, and came to New Life, and they chose me.
And you see, the thing is, are you saying that even parents who don't like to address it are doing something very wrong? Like if you bring it up only once and then just say, leave it alone.
Yeah, you see, children here understand by repetition.
Yes,
you
so
know,
it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, so just keep doing. I mean, just keep going until they're able to understand. Because what it does, it helps them to build their confidence.
It's true.
And I was sharing the other day, I had my daughter tell her friend. Her friend asked her, are you adopted? Because of course our circle of friends know. And I had my daughter, she didn't know I was listening. She said, yeah, I'm adopted.
Wow, very
confident.
Then
I had her friend ask her, so where were you? And then she says, I was in Kibera. I you were in Kibera? The friend was shocked. She said, yeah, that's where I was. Yeah. Then I was taken to hospital. Then I was, and then the friend, of course, they're very close. So the friend felt, oh. And then my daughter said, so I said, when your friend kept quiet for long, what did you feel? No, I think she was shocked, Mommy. So I changed the topic.
Wow, very smart.
So you see,
girl,
she's building her confidence.
Okay.
Because we can't shield her from the world.
That's true.
She will have people telling her, by the way, you are not born here. You know, there'll be nasty people.
Yes, there will. So that's a great way to safeguard her heart.
Exactly.
Grace, coming back to you in terms of even trying to understand that decision that I would have to make as an adopted parent, adoptive parent, how do I choose? How do I say, I'm going to pick Shanice and not Pauline. I'm going to pick Grace and not pick Shiko. When I walk into a home, how do I know this child is the one for me?
We do matching in the office. So after you have been approved and a child has been declared free for adoption, we take the matter to the matching department. So the matching team looks at your profile. Of course, when you're applying, you say the preference you prefer. You prefer a 3-year-old girl, or a 3-year-old boy, or a child between this and that age. So we use whatever you have, the information you've given us to match you with a child. So we match you with a child and present your profile to the home where your child is coming from. So by the time you're going to that institution, you already know you're going to see baby X.
Yeah.
So you see baby X and you identify that match and then you start bonding like we said earlier.
So this is not like the way you'd probably, and sorry for using this, analogy here, that you'd walk into, a farm and just pick whatever you're picking, and walk out with that mbuzi over there. No, this is a specific direct match. You don't walk, it's not like you're walking in, into a supermarket and picking, whatever suits you.
Yes, remember this is a child-centered activity and we need to dignify that child.
Yeah.
So keeping the dignity of the child means that we should not picky-ponky a child and make the other children feel bad if they're not picked,
Right.
So in the name of dignifying that child, we match and communicate the match and you go and look at that particular child that you've been matched with. Yes.
Yes. Fantastic. All right. Now, we've talked about having that particular top. But when we talk about an adoption order being irrevocable, what does that really mean? Shanice, when you look at it, when I get into this, it's like I need to understand what can I not do, what can I not go back to? Okay. What are these boundaries?
Yes, the reason why after you've bonded with the child and you bring the child home, there's still a mandatory period of 3 months for you to continue bonding.
Yeah.
Introduce the child to your family, see how well, how cohesive you are. And at that point, I think at times you can return if the child doesn't bond with you, you don't bond.
Wow.
Though it is rare because societies are very well versed in matching. So it's very rare. Then after that is when you can begin the process of court. And then the court process also takes time.
Yeah.
There are people coming in from Ministry of Labor, Children's Department. There's somebody called a guardian ad litem who is focused on the child's, paramount interests.
Right.
So there's quite a lot of things going on in the process that again allows you to keep bonding with the child so that by the time the court order is given, you've presented documents, there are reports that have been done.
Yeah.
Both the child and the parent are sure this is where we are going to.
Yeah.
So now after that, it's like you give birth. The moment the adoption order is ready, you have given birth to the child.
Wow.
So now this is your child. You have given the child your name. So just like your child who is placed in your arms in the hospital, really, you know, unless now it's very difficult to go back.
Of course.
Yes, now the child is here.
Yeah.
Now do what it takes.
And that is why you have to be extra sure.
Yes.
And it makes sense as to why there's that period given.
Yes, and counseling, a lot of counseling is done by professionals.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I understand text messages coming in thick and fast. Let's see what Kenyans are saying, or at least even asking. Morning, Wallace from Naivasha. How can I introduce the adopted child to other siblings in the family? Pauline, put a pin on that. I'm going to give that one to you from Wallace. Let's take another one. Hello, I'm going through the adoption process, but the social worker is really frustrating me. To all social workers, please be supportive to adoptive parents. Kudos to those who are supportive already nameless. Thank you so much for that. If someone adopts a child, mistreats them or her, what legal advice should be followed? Ludwig, peace from Kericho. Okay, Shanice, you'll keep that in mind. Good morning, team. My concern will be with couples who already have their own blood children and choosing to adopt a child. How do they ensure that the adopted child blends in with the other children without the children feeling, or the child feeling like an outcast? Very good one. Either Grace or Pauline, you can actually answer that. Do we have our last one so that we can give them an opportunity to answer? Okay. All right. So good question here that's come in from Ludwig. And when you see a situation of abuse, what then really does happen in such a situation? Can the child be allowed to return back to the home? How do you approach this situation?
Yes. So first I'll start with saying that it has happened.
Yes.
And societies have been forced to step in and actually rescue the child.
Yes.
And then there'll be reports done, there'll be investigations done by the Child Protection Unit, the police, and the child may be returned and the parents may be charged in a court of law. Having an adoption order doesn't stop you, just the same way if I abused my child and maybe the neighbors report. It doesn't matter if it's my biological child or an adopted child. I'm still liable. The children's rights are real. They're in the Constitution. So it doesn't matter. They will take away the child. You will face the consequences. Yes.
Okay. Pauline, go ahead about how to introduce your child to their new siblings. And yes, by the way, you can see there sometimes could be a wedge between adopted kids and the biological kids within a home. Yes. So how, again, do you handle that?
Yeah. So possibly involve them. For example, if you have biological children before they're adopted, involve them in the process.
Yeah.
Like tell them we're going to do this, you're going to have a sibling, not from not from mommy's tummy, but there's something called adoption. What is adoption? Explain to them what the word adoption means. It's another mommy got a baby, was not able to bring up that baby for one reason or another. So involve them. So when you're going for the visits, you had Grace say you have to go for visits. So like for 1 month, we kept going to New Life with our daughter. This is your sister. Then we'd go back home. And all that, we involved her. We took her to hospital because you're allowed to take the child for a hospital visit before you take the child home. We involved her. The clothes, because she needed to give her sister some. We were adopting a girl. She's a girl.
Right.
So, like, what clothes would you like to give your sister? Like that, you involve her. And then, yeah, you just keep, you explain to them what it is. Definitely, just like any other child. I remember there's a time my daughter said, she was so annoyed with her sister, just like the way siblings are annoyed with one another. She said, "Ma'am, I don't even know why you adopted her."
Oh, wow.
So, but I wasn't alarmed. I mean, it's just like the way a biological child would tell the mother, I don't like my brother or my sister. So, but I'm happy that I had. So I'll tell her, you know, you can't use that against. She's rightfully our daughter and she's rightfully your sister. So you don't rebuke that. It's okay. She was frustrated. So you just keep explaining to her, affirming them. You must respect her. I mean, she didn't have a, not like to tell them to have a woye, because you don't want them to also have a woye, you know, I mean, feel woye because she didn't have a mother. No, you want them to have a normal, and that's why I tell people, make it very normal. A normal relate. Don't be very artificial. You can't discipline your adopted child because someone might see you or someone might see. Just be normal.
Grace, getting back to you on some of the frequently asked questions that have come in. Number one, there was a question about what's the youngest I can adopt? And number two, I'm very curious to know about how you handle teen pregnancy situations. You've seen the spikes, obviously, lately, especially during this COVID period. Should there be a teenager or someone with a loved one who is pregnant right now and considering giving up that child because, you know, they're still young, they have their whole life ahead of them, how do you handle such a situation when it comes to teen pregnancies?
Children to be adopted, there are 3 sets of children who can be adopted.
Yeah.
Children who are abandoned. And for a child who's been abandoned, the law requires that the police do the investigations for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
And after 6 months, if a child's family has not been traced, that child can be adopted. So for an abandoned child, a 6-month-old baby is the youngest child that can be adopted. For children given up for adoption, Shiko, as you're saying, those children, the law requires the parent, after giving up the child for adoption, they're given 6 weeks to think about this decision as they go through counseling and, psychosocial support before they can actually sign the final consent. If they change their minds in between this period of 6 months from birth to the 6 months, 6 weeks, they can take the baby back home and go with the child. And that is always the joy of all of us, the CCI and us in the adoption office. So the youngest child who can be adopted and has been given up for adoption is 6 weeks.
Okay, but let me just rope in Shanice there for a second. What do you do in such a situation? Now, you've already passed your way beyond the 6-week mark. You're coming back when the child is 15 years old. And now you want your child back because you say, oh, I made a mistake. So how does this happen? Pauline, I mean, God forbid, the biological parents of your daughter come back when she's almost an adult and say, I made a mistake. I didn't mean to give up my child to Little Angels Network. I want my baby back. Well, so what am I looking at?
It becomes a battle.
Yes.
A court battle. Because it's now these parents, these are the child.
Yeah.
And actually, the law will favor the adoptive parent. Because where were you for 15 years?
Yeah.
It doesn't take that long to make a decision, especially concerning your own biological child.
Yeah.
So I know people have done that. They have tried to pull that before, where they monitor, and when the child maybe is number 1 in KCP or something, and, all of a sudden, I want my child back, or, things happen. But no. I mean, you had a chance. That is why the child remains in the home for quite a while.
Yeah.
Before, that is why you'll find, even with what Grace is saying, at 6 months, you'll still find most children going to adoptive parents at 2 years old.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of chance for you to go back and pick up your child. So 15 years, you've really lost interest.
Yeah.
So you can't come back now. When they're adults, you can bond if you want to. But, I mean, at this stage,
Okay. We're just about to wind up, I understand. But let's leave people with some encouragement here. And Pauline, how do we go about creating a culture of adoption? Because I believe giving a child a home is the most beautiful thing, So let's create opportunities here. What would you tell our audience as we say, Kwaheri?
Wow. I mean, adopt. If you feel it, if you have the desire, don't adopt because people are adopting. But if you feel within yourself, you have some space, like, I really think we can adopt.
Yeah.
Think through it. If you're married, talk about it with your spouse, because then again, Grace, the agency, will not give you a leeway if you guys are not in agreement.
Right.
So you have to, as a couple, to be together. If you're an individual, there are many single people who are adopting, and that should not stop you who is single from adopting and maybe getting married still with the adopted child. So anybody can adopt.
Yeah.
So it's a natural. And I say this from experience. What I felt when I knew I was pregnant with my biological child is what I felt the day I laid my eyes on our adopted daughter. Aww. It's a beautiful journey. Yeah. Be natural. Don't overthink it when the child is at home. Just flow. Just flow. And just watch them just grow. So, and I say, even if we don't adopt, the child will grow. But how much more bringing them to your home and growing with them? Wow, that's such amazing. A privilege.
Such a privilege. Yeah. For you, Grace, as we wind up, what mistakes would you like to highlight that parents make in the adoption journey that you would like to say? And of course, the importance of creating positive spaces for children who you're bringing into your home.
Mistakes parents make. Some parents can come, especially for family adoptions, mostly staying with that. They come and provide altered documents. Yeah. And by altered, we mean birth certificates. Maybe you backdate the age of your baby, and then that baby is not a baby. You go and adopt this child, and this child becomes a nuisance because the child is not a child, and you're treating the child as a child.
Yeah.
So trying to be as honest as possible. The society, the social workers will always verify documents, but sometimes you try and hide them as much as possible, so it's not easy for us to, you know, figure it out. But yeah, that would be the worst mistake someone can make to when you come to us and start the adoption process.
Okay.
What was the other question?
About positive environments for your child.
By first of all, creating conversations, positive conversations and positive stories on adoption. This is a good platform. Talking at the media stage is a good platform. We are creating awareness. People are now learning that adoption is not so difficult. It's beautiful, and anyone can do it. Parents joining and conversing in the support groups. There are a lot of support groups right now. There's one by Mr. Frederick Kimemia, Adoption Society of Kenya. There's one Adoption is Beautiful Facebook page. There's a lot. So support groups also help in making you feel that this is a beautiful journey and you can do it and you're not alone, and you know there are people to support you.
Well, thank you so much for that. Virginia, would you like to wrap up one-liner as we say Kwaheri?
Okay. Yes, all I can say is that every child deserves the unequal opportunity with every other child. The moment you neglect these children, they'll come back, grow up and become thugs and come for you. So if you have that opportunity, do it. If you cannot take one in, sponsor the children in the home.
Okay. And so even as we say goodbye, I want to share this one with you. And it's from the KKPI Adoption Society Kenya, who say that despite this, they are also the most vulnerable and most likely to be overlooked, ignored, underappreciated, abused, and neglected. That's children, by the way, who need a home. And we most often forget that they shall not remain children forever. The experiences of childhood shall determine if the child shall go on to become a positive contributory member of the society when they mature into adulthood. Now, because children are our future, we must be involved as a society, a community, in their well-being. They need constant love, care, and attention of a dedicated caregiver or parent. So today we encourage you to adopt an orphaned child or an abandoned child from obviously our great country. And so with that, thank you so much to Pauline Gikanga. Did I say it right?
Finally.
Virginia Shanice Kimeni, thank you so much. And of course, Grace E. Kambi, Asante Sana for making time for us. We appreciate you. Keep talking to us through our social media platforms. If you've got any questions, of course, we'd be happy to forward them to panelists. And remember, you can interact with us through our social media platforms at K24 TV. I also invite you to follow me on my personal one at Shiko Kaitani. Let's have a blessed day up ahead. Bye-bye.